Yo, yo, yo. What's good, my family? It's your boy, A-Face, the Muddy Professor. And, obviously, as you can see, here I go back again with another video. So, yeah, I'm out here. I don't know if y'all can hear it, right? But it's raining. Um, it's actually a very nice day today, right? So it's like the middle of November where I live, and normally it's type cold around this time. Actually, just a few days ago, just the past couple of days been cold. You know what I mean? And today is like in the 60s, so it feels really good. It's raining. I love the refreshing feel of the rain. It's just, you know what I mean? I'm out here bare feet, you know what I mean? Like walking through the wet grass and all that. I believe, I don't know, it's good for me. I like it, you know what I mean? Like I told y'all before, I'm a hippie gangster. And I own that. I like it and I own it, you know what I mean? But yeah, so I'm here today, in this beautiful element or whatever. It's funny because in in certain traditions or whatever, and metaphorically, even like in poetic literature and stuff like that, water is a representation of emotion. I have related emotion to like fire before. Actually, I believe passion is more fire. Passion is like overwhelming emotion. You know what I mean? Emotion though is like water. You know what I'm saying? And it's true. It's like formless. Or whatever. Like it switches. Waves. It got waves. We be having waves of emotion, and things come and go like the tide and stuff like that. So I get it. I get it. And there's a lot of like esoteric kind of stuff to it where people talk about the moon and all that, and and that also is related to, in some ways, to emotion in certain traditions. Anyway, this is how people think. I'm just bringing about how it's a very wet day, and the subject that I want to talk about today is very much related to emotion. It's on mental illness, specifically my experience with mental illness. So quick disclaimer, real quick. Anybody, trigger warnings, all that, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to be talking about mental illness. And I'm going to give my understanding about my own condition. Understand, people? I'm going to say certain things, and I don't want anybody to get anything twisted. I'm not talking about nobody else unless I specifically say that. Understand? I'm talking about me and my own experience. I want to share something with y'all because maybe there are people out there who might be like me, who once I get into my story, you're going to understand what I'm talking about, but who have experienced things similar to me. And maybe through my story, they might get answers for themselves about what's going on with themselves. Alright, so understand. I'm saying this right now. I'm gonna be it's touchy. What I'm gonna talk about is touchy. Certain people might find offense to it. Certain people might think like I'm giving misinformation. No, I'm talking about me, my own experience. So with that being said, I'm gonna get into it. So I gotta start like from way back when, right? So as a kid, I grew up in certain conditions, right? I don't want to complain and be like, not take responsibility for my own life or whatever, and blame conditions on what happened to me. But I have to say, I was in certain conditions that formed me into a certain way of thinking, okay? And I'm gonna explain this stuff. So I grew up as a little kid, right, in Brooklyn. I was born in Brooklyn. I was raised I live. All right. So here, this is the real deal. So for the most part, we did live in Brooklyn, right? And then there were times, wow, it's really coming down, and I'm really getting wet. I'm in the dugout trying to stay out of this. It's like a hurricane out here. I wonder if there's a hurricane going on. I don't really watch the news. Anyway, I'm gonna try to talk over this. It's really, 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 really coming down. It's crazy. But what was I saying? Okay, I'm a little kid. I was a little kid. I grew up in Brooklyn, right? I was born in the very, very like beginning of the '80s. Okay. So I grew up around that time, and I grew up in bad conditions. You know what I'm saying? As a little kid, though, my first experience into life, for a long time, it was normal to me. I didn't know things were as bad as they were, you know? And the only way I found out and I realized how bad they were, like, you know, I eventually got to know, was through like comparison to other people's life, right? So I start going to school and noticing other things about other little kids and stuff like that, and I'm like, whoa, hold up, like that don't happen in my crib, you know, or we don't be on that type time or whatever in my house. And then I started realizing that the majority of other little kids was living different than I was, you know. So that was something I was dealing with for a long time too, you know what I'm saying? Feeling like inadequate, feeling less than, you know, having self-esteem issues, you know. I used to have problems with bullies like anybody, you know, because I was a dirty little bummy kid, you know, going to school. We was broke, we was poor, like dirt poor. We was messed up. I was, you know, I had to deal with child abuse, you know, physical child abuse, you know what I'm saying, in my home, you know what I mean, from one of my parents. My other parent was, I'm not going to be specific about too much stuff, because, you know, I truly believe in honor your mother and father, you know what I'm saying? I'm just stating certain conditions. I'm not talking bad on it. I'm just stating certain conditions on what happened in my life, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, I had one parent that was physically abusive. That parent, and I gotta say, you know, I done made amends. I'm not upset. I love my parents with all my heart. One of my parents is not here with me today. You know what I'm saying? But I love my parents with all my heart. And they were good people. They are good people. You know what I'm saying? Without a doubt in my mind. You know, I made amends with my parent where I suffered abuse from and stuff like that. I understand that parent didn't know better at that time. It's not so much of an excuse, but like, you only do what you know. And that person had grew up very, very, very foul, very messed up. You know, you know, they didn't know. They didn't know how to be a parent by the time I came around. And through experience, they gained the wisdom, and today they are outstanding as a parent. You know, I couldn't ask for nothing better. I'll be honest with you. So that being said, I have a, you know, like I said, I had a parent that was addicted to narcotics for most of my life, but it didn't make that parent a bad person, which was crazy. My other parent, who was physically abusive, never used any type of substance. True story. It was crazy. That parent never used no type of substance. You know what I'm saying? Never. You know what I mean? But was messed up, physically abusive. You know what I'm saying? And you know, or whatever. But that parent had a lot of stuff going on. I truly tell you, you know, like certain things, you know, mentally what's going on with them, and that was never resolved and never taken care of. And likewise with my other parent, you know, both of my parents went through some real messed up stuff coming up in their childhood, and then it just transferred over to us, and we grew up messed up. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, there was a lot of stuff happening. So as a child, I suffered from depression. I had problems as a kid with mood swings, right? Where, like, I would seemingly be okay in certain situations, and then out of the blue, I'm out of control. Like, you know, like things, like I'm either bouncing off of the walls, or like I'm on some depressed stuff, like don't want to talk to nobody, don't want to deal with nobody, stuff like that. And promise you, this been going on for as long as I could pretty much remember, right? So that too was normal to me. I didn't realize that. Like I knew I was going through some stuff I didn't want to go through. Understand that. I knew that. I knew there was unpleasant stuff going on in my life and stuff. But I've been taught too from my parents that life ain't always fair. You know, things happen. You know, you gotta deal with stuff. Blase, blase, blah. It used to piss me off. But that was the mentality I started to adapt. You know what I'm saying? This was the mentality of my neighborhood. We grew up in poverty. You know what I'm saying? It was time, like I said before, that we was like literally we was homeless. You know what I mean? No home. We had to go to shelters and stuff to get, you know, it was crazy. You know, I remember these things. This is all throughout the 80s, early 90s coming up, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like we moved to other places all around New York. It was times I lived in Harlem too, but we mostly stayed in Brooklyn. Even when we lived out there, we would always go back to Brooklyn. There was a fan in Brooklyn and Red Hook that we always was with. Like even when we had that crib in Harlem, we never was around. My mom hated Harlem. Hated Harlem. You know what I'm saying? So we never was around them. And it's crazy because we just went from one messed up hood to the other, you know, to chill at. But it was like what my mom knew, so she was just, you know, it was what it was, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, yeah, so, you know, growing up as a kid, I dealt with a lot of stuff, but it felt normal. I didn't like it, but it was normal. It was normal, right? So, you know, I became an adult. I had a lot of aggression. It was messed up because in my household, you know, I wasn't allowed to express myself the way I wanted to. I couldn't ask too many questions. I would get beat for stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it got to a point where I just shut up. I don't say nothing. I got a question, I save it. I figure it out on my own. That's crazy because that's true stuff, yo. A lot of stuff, I had to think about it on my own and just figure it out on my own. And it's bugged out because in a way, that gave me a certain resourcefulness. Yo, true story. I'm a great problem solver today. And this is not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just being real with the facts. I'm a great problem solver today. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's attributed to since a child, since a young age, I had to figure things out on my own because I couldn't ask questions. This did something to me, man. It did something to me. I started hiding my emotions. So I grew up in being real. So, you know, grew up in between certain spots sometimes, but mostly in Brooklyn all the time. You know what I mean? And a lot of, like, even in my neighborhood where I lived at, there was kids, right, that was like other races and older and bigger. Yo, in the 80s, I don't know about nowhere else, but in the 80s in Brooklyn, it was like gladiator school. I gotta be real with you. It was gladiator school. It was, like, even as little kids, other little kids is trying to get over on the little kids, and we used to run around unsupervised a lot. You know what I'm saying? We'd be out, you know, like playing in a vacant lot. I remember there used to be a vacant lot right across the street. Me and my cousins, we used to go over there. It was a lot of like garbage over there and all that, and we used to like fix up all the trash into clubhouses and play in the trash. I swear, these be dirty ass mattresses. Oh, excuse my language. I'm sorry. You know, I'm like, my mind is just getting back into that mode. They used to be very dirty, filthy, disgusting matches. We was jumping on them, playing wrestling, being Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Ultimate Warrior, all on these dirty matches. Yo, it was crazy, yo. But we used to do this stuff, right? And then there used to be other little kids from around the neighborhood. They older, they got, you know, a little bit more kids with them, stuff like that. And then they used to come and try to play us, beat us up, take stuff from us, all that. Now, mind you, I was a poor little kid, and it wasn't like we never had nothing, right? But it was rare that I actually ever had something that was that was valuable, that other people saw like, oh, that's nice. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was rare for me. And if I ever had something, I protected that with my life, even as a child, because, it was like, no, you're not taking this from me. I don't got nothing else. And this it's not guaranteed I will ever get something else. You know, so this thing right here, no, I'm fighting for this. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy, right? Because I used to get beat up at home. And then I go out and there was little kids trying to beat me up. You know what I'm saying? And it got to a point where it was like, yo, I got beat up at home so much. It used to be like on a daily basis. You get beat up at home so much. And this is a grown adult doing this to me, right? I'm coming out here and there's these other little kids and they trying to do, nah, man. There's nothing you could do that hasn't been done to me even worse. Like, get out of here. So I fought. A lot of times I fought, and that's, you know, so that gave me my little fighting spirit. But anyway, I don't want to, you know, I'm not going into a boasting session. I'm sorry, because it sounds like I'm starting a war story, and I apologize. I got lost in the moment. But I'm just giving you a little bit of my background. You know what I'm saying? I'm being real with y'all. I'm being so real. You know what I mean? I can't really do this with a lot of people. Honestly, I don't have a whole lot of people in my life that I could actually truly open up. And it's crazy because I'm anonymous behind this mask right here, and a lot of people who actually know me know what I look like, know my real name, my life, and they're gonna see this and know stuff about. But this is the only way I can get it out. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit embarrassing. I got insecurity issues. I know this, and I'm being real with it. But anyway, I dealt with mental illness coming up through all of this stuff, but never knew it. Nobody ever talked to me about mental illness. Nobody ever talked to me about any of this stuff, right? So I become an adult. I have problems as a kid. Yo, I was getting locked up as a kid. What kids you know? Like, I'm not saying there's nobody out there, of course, because I was around a bunch of kids that was getting locked up, but that's not normal. I got kids. I got 2 sons. And both of my sons, one of my sons is 17, my other son is 19, about to be 20. Never been arrested. Never, ever been arrested. And it's crazy because by the time both of their ages, by the time of my youngest son's age, I was already locked up 3 times. Three times in my life. I was locked up. By that time, at 17. And then boom, after 17 it was just, you know, I was just doing a bunch of little candy bills until I finally went upstate. Okay, so in 2004, right, I had an incident where I ended up in the psychiatric ward. And for the first time, I got diagnosed as being bipolar with depression and anxiety. Okay? It's a crazy combination. So, you know, time I used to suffer panic attack. I used to think I was gonna die. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I had a sister who had very bad asthma. I never, like, actually had asthma, was diagnosed with asthma, but I used to have these, it used to be so hard to breathe, you know. I used to feel like, oh snap, do I have asthma? This one's in my family. I think my dad had it as a kid, and I used to think like, wow, is it coming on me now? Like, is this asthma? Is this what they go through? Do I gotta be having a pump and all that? But I realized later on that these were panic attacks that I was having, right? So yeah, what was okay, so let me explain something that I learned after I got diagnosed with being bipolar, right? And this is what I didn't learn this right away, mind you. You know, you hear the people talk all the time. Oh, he bipolar. You know, somebody get angry quick and oh, they bipolar. That's not bipolar. All right, I'm gonna explain something to you. So we have a range of emotions from, you know, low, very, very low to very, very high, and everything in between. There's so many things in between that we could go through, a range of emotions. And most of the time, as we go through our emotions from low to high, high to low, there are transitional spots. Like you know, you go from this to that, to this to that, progressively, right? In a person who is bipolar, basically they're, all right, poles. You know how pole, you got North Pole, South Pole? That's the very tip top. North Pole and South Pole, you can consider already bottom, right? That's what it's like. You're going from one pole to the next with no transitional, nothing, no progression in between. It's just straight from down here all the way up here. Straight from all the way up here, straight down there. You know what I'm saying? So that's the mood swings. That's what people would consider the mood swings, and that's why people are like, yo, this person crazy. He was just chilling, now all of a sudden he's bugging. You know what I'm saying? Or or he was just bugging, and now all of a sudden he acting cool and chill like nothing was wrong. And this used to happen to me, right? So I end up in the psychiatric ward. I get diagnosed. They put me on medication. For years, I'm taking medication, right? I'm not gonna get into. There's so much that I could talk about, but all right. So I'm diagnosed, and now I'm taking medication. I've been on so many different medications, though, right? Because, after taking the medication for a while, realize it don't work or it's not working as good as it should, and they put me on something else, or they'll add something to that medication, And there's a lot of side effects with, man, so many messed up side effects with these medications. So, like, a lot of times I stop taking them, or not like that, but sometimes I'm dead, and I wouldn't recommend that. But I'm just saying, sometimes I even went so far just to stop taking them altogether. But when I would see my psychiatrist, whatever, they would prescribe me something else. Yo, so much stuff. I've been so much, too many medications to mention, right? I done tried basically all of them. True story. I've been through the jail system. They always pump me for the meds, right? So yeah, I'm going through jail. I had an incident that ended me up in state prison. It was a violent incident, like very, very, very violent. And they attributed it to my mental illness and my lack of being on meds. And that was part of everything, my whole court, everything. Like, the judge spoke about that. He made it a stipulation that the whole time I'm in prison, I have to do mental health care, whatever the psychiatrist recommends, I have to follow, all this stuff, man. It was just so many stipulations. If I didn't follow these stipulations, I wouldn't get parole. I end up maxing out. They threatened me with being in a hole for not taking meds a whole bunch of times. So for a while, I knew I wasn't crazy. I could get into this is a whole different story. I could get into that another time. But for a while, I didn't feel like I was crazy. It was just crazy stuff happening to me, right? And I try to explain it, and they're like, yo, you're bugging. You don't know what you're talking about. We're the professionals. You're not. This whole time, I'm on like a certain spiritual journey. I just didn't get to a certain level. So I come home, I get deeper and so much deeper into my spiritual journey. And then I find out certain information, right? Things I never knew before. See, you can't know what you never knew. Somebody never taught you something. How could you ever know it, right? There's times when I talk about how God puts ideas and thoughts in my mind. That's one way to know things without ever being taught. But even then, you still have to measure that up with something you do know, so that you know that what you're getting is accurate. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I never knew certain information, and then I stumbled upon it, right? It's gonna sound crazy to some people, and I don't care, because I know this is accurate for me, like I said. So for a lot of years, I'm on different medications. They're not working so well. Things like that. But I'm still going through these symptoms of bipolar. I come across some information, right, about empaths or whatever. And all of a sudden, that's when the realization, that's when it clicked. And it was like, oh, I had that moment where it was like, yes, this is it. This is it right here. That thing right there, that's what's been going on with you. That's what's been happening to you. You know what I'm saying? So let me explain this. Bipolar person, they have mood swings, and what they attribute that to is like some type of chemical imbalance in you or whatever, and the medication is supposed to like even that balance you out. It's an imbalance, and the medication is supposed to balance you, right? A lot of time the medication just numbs it down, but it don't actually do the job. It doesn't make it work all together. It's just like a little bit of numbing. It's like taking a Tylenol when you have a real bad headache. You might get a little bit of relief, but not really. You still have a headache. You know what I mean? And that's what it was like, right? So, but it would affect me in other ways. You know what I mean? But so Okay, so I was taking. All right. So I'm gonna tell you what was happening for for me, and this is so true. And I, and I look back on my jail time and all, and I could see 100%. So I'm sensitive to energies. This is where this whole thing about energies all started for me, because it was like God showed me all this information and then matched it up with stuff I've been shown from the past by God, and then things I've already knew, and all this connected, and it all came together. So I'm sensitive, and I'm sure there's other people out there that's like me. I'm sensitive to certain energies. A lot of times I get feelings and emotions in me, and there's no real explanation for it, right? Like I could wake up and wake up depressed, but not have nothing wrong going on in my life. There's absolutely, like, I actually, things might be actually going very well for me in my life, but for some reason I'm depressed, and I can't put my finger on why, but I know what I feel. And sometimes it creeps on me, right? Sometimes I might be in depressed mode for a few days without even realizing it, but it's affecting me, right? And then somebody tell me, I have a habit when I'm depressed, I isolate, I get away. That's important too. I'm gonna explain that for a moment. So I get away, I isolate when I start feeling like this, and people start to realize, recognize it, and some people become offended. Some like, yo, you returning my calls, you don't answer my texts. And it's nothing personal. It's just like, I don't know, it's something in me that's telling me, you gotta get away, get away. All right. So I started realizing, I started gaining certain information, and then I started realizing in my life, I might wake up one day and I'm feeling a certain type of way. And then I notice the people around me, and the people who's always around me, constantly around me. And I see someone, somebody who might be around me all the time, and they're in the mood. There we go. I'm picking up on that energy. Now, I'm going to say this, right? A lot of people talk about being psychic. I'm not going to claim that, I'm a psychic or something like that. What I'm saying is, you get an idea. You watch movies, and people are reading somebody's thoughts, and in the movie, in their mind is it's showing, it's implying that they're hearing somebody's thought, but in that person's voice. You know what I'm saying? Like they know it's that person's thoughts because it's in that person's voice and all that, so they can pinpoint it right away. I don't think it's actually like that. I promise you, I don't know all the facts for real. I haven't done all the research that I could possibly do about it, but I don't think it's like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, I'm gonna tell you for real, the feelings that I felt don't come with a signature. It don't say, oh, this is this person's feelings, or it don't come with their voice. It don't come with none of that. The feelings feel like my feelings. They feel like mine, genuine, 100% feel like mine. There's no other, like, I'm the one feeling them. There's no other reason. Like, if you're not told that you're feeling something else that belongs to somebody else, there's no reason to think that it's not yours, because it feels like yours. The only thing is, and when you start to think about it and you start to analyze it, you realizing, like, yo, where is this coming from? There's something wrong with me, because there's no good reason for this to come from anywhere. I haven't been depressed. I haven't been thinking sad thoughts. I haven't, none of this. So where is this coming from? You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's not yours. It's not yours. All of a sudden, you go from being super happy to super sad, or super sad to super happy out of the blue. Look at your environment. Who are you around? What are you entertaining? You're picking up energies. Well, I'm not saying you. I'm sorry. Please excuse that. For myself, that's how I started to realize. I was picking up energies, feeling other people's. I know it sounds crazy, but I know this stuff is true. God showed me, and I see the evidence for myself in my everyday life. So I have to be careful. I've come to realize that I have to be careful. I have to guard my energy when I'm in public around certain people, And I'm not saying that I have to altogether avoid certain people. That was my natural instinct. Now hear me. I told you, every time I started to get depressed, my natural instinct kicked in, and I just automatically start isolating myself. It wasn't a choice like, I'm gonna get away from people. No, I just start doing it, right? because it's like that inner God in me, that instinct, it kicks on. It's an instinct. It's like that we talked about this before, the subconscious in your body's memory. Your body recognizes something that's familiar, and they like, what? You gotta get away, even though you don't realize it and understand why, or that even that you're doing it. Your body kicked into autopilot and was like, nope, you got to get out of here. You're picking up energies that don't belong to you, and they're affecting you in a negative way. We must go. We have to get away from these energies, recoup, gather yourself, get yourself back together, then you could come back. But right now, it's like you're weakened. You're in a weakened state. You know what I mean? And any more of this abuse, or that's coming on you, is going to affect you in a hard way, in a bad way, This is what caused people to go, I think, mentally like crazy. Because I'm gonna say for myself, being somebody who was bipolar, it was hard. It's hard. It's hard when you don't understand why you're being this way, right? And then the people around you, some people act like they understand, but if they're not going through, I promise you, you've never been through it, you truly do not understand. You're just relating it to something in your mind that you already know. But if you've never been through this experience, it's not an experience that you truly, truly know. You know what I'm saying? You can only relate it to things you've been through, and it's not exactly the same. So sometimes people say they understand, and they try to. And I give them credit. Sometimes they go out, they wait to try to understand certain things and read books about it. You got the psychiatrists and all this. They got books and books about conditions. But certain things ain't mentioned. When it comes to spirituality and science, it don't necessarily mix. It sounds like pseudoscience. It sounds like hokey stuff. And a lot of times they don't touch that. They tell you you're bugging. That they make that as a reason why you need to be on medication. I've been told that so many times, But I kind of realize it. I know what I know, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying there's people out there who might need medication all the time and to stabilize them. And I'm not saying for people to get off their medication. What I'm saying is, what we should do is try to, when we're having these issues, these problems, where we're having mood swings, we can't really explain it. It feels uncontrollable. We don't understand why. Look at your environment. What's going on around you in this moment? What's going on around you? Be very attentive. Pay attention. Look. What's happening? You're possibly picking up on energies that don't belong to you. And when you get them, they feel like yours. Because who else they're going to feel like? I mean, really, it's happening in your body, in you, like everything else does. So whatever is happening in you, you own it. You take it, you take ownership of that, right? Thing is, sometimes it's not ours. It's not ours. Reacting off of other people's, literally, that's what we're doing. We start reacting off of other people's emotions. And that's where we come into the problems. You know what I'm saying? Because now we acting over something that don't even belong to us, that don't really, and so, okay, so how I started to overcome it, right? I still battle it from time to time, but I recognize it. One thing is being aware, having awareness. Like I said, when things start to happen, to be attentive. What I'm speaking about might not relate to everybody. So when things happen to you and you look around you and you don't realize that what I'm saying sounds right, then that what I'm talking about is not for you. What I'm talking about is not for you. I'm only talking about people who go through this like I've been through. I'm only explaining from my point of view how it affected me. I'm different. I'm somebody different than, I'm not saying like I'm different like that, like I'm special. But I'm different than, everybody else. And everybody else is different than each other. You know what I mean? Everybody got a unique story, a unique situation. You can't just group everybody into categories. It don't work that way. Sometimes we'll fit into multiple categories. So I feel like with my situation, if this really truly a sickness of bipolar disorder, because maybe all the people who work, I'm saying maybe, all the people who've been diagnosed have been misdiagnosed. Or maybe there's the empathic condition which shares symptoms of bipolar. Just like other sicknesses, right? Right now we got COVID going on. Just recently, true story. I was out here in the rain the last time. It was colder and I got sick. true story. I was sick for 2 days straight in bed. I was laid up. I was done. I couldn't even go to work, right? And I'm messed up, like messed up. So much that I went and got a COVID test. I was like, yo, I'm like, I had a bunch of symptoms. And I got tested. I was negative. I wasn't, I didn't have COVID. It was just, me being irresponsible in the rain. You know what I mean? But it was the same symptoms, right? And it took that test to find out that it was different. So a lot of times, certain conditions share similar symptoms. And because they share this symptom, and this happens all the time. People get misdiagnosed, not just mental illness, but just regular medical conditions. And they share certain similar symptoms, so the doctor would treat one thing, but it's not that thing. It's something else. It's just something else that got symptoms like this thing. And I feel like that's the thing, with people who are empathic. Like, we share the symptoms of bipolar depression, anxiety, all that stuff. We share those symptoms with those conditions. So when we go, we don't know what's happening to us. We've never been educated in any way. I wasn't educated in no way. My parents weren't that spiritual. I'm not gonna say at all, but my parents weren't on that level of spirituality. They didn't know nothing about this stuff. I didn't even know nothing about, honestly, the mental illness part of it. Like, I didn't grow up in that environment. My parents had suffered from certain things, I know, but there wasn't no treatment. They wasn't going through no treatment. My dad later in years ended up going through, treatment, but this is much later. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't a thing in my household where these type of things were talked about. I didn't know about them. How could you know? How could I know? I was completely ignorant to these things. I just felt like it was something wrong. And I feel like a lot of people go through life feeling like that, right? And not understanding that. You're picking up on energies. And I started to talk and say, like, how I started to battle that. So I started meditating. Through meditation, it's like, I'm there. This is how I meditate. I sit still and I just try to be blank, right? I might concentrate on something, what they call like a mantra, right? But I'll say like something that's important to me, like a Bible verse or something, or I'll just repeat certain things. I'll take in-breaths, like I'm receiving, right? I'm receiving wisdom. And when I'm my out-breath, I'm giving love. Receive wisdom, give love. I might just keep repeating that over and over and over and over and over for a while, until I start to feel myself getting into a certain state where it's like I start to blank out, like the thoughts that's happening, because they always happen. The thoughts that's happening in my mind are coming less frequently. It's moments where I have total blankness, where I could just concentrate on the blackness of my eyes are closed. I could just concentrate on the blackness and that sound of silence. I know what I'm talking about. It's like a like a very, like, it's like on a certain frequency. It's just silence, but it has a sound. It has a sound. I just concentrate on that. I try at least. I be in the woods and nature and the wilderness often when I meditate. So I hear the birds. I listen to that. Water, rain. You know what I mean? Animals running by, leaves falling, whatever. There be people in the park talking. I hear all that, and I just try to zone and not really have too much thoughts. So I clear all that energy, all that stuff. I more or less, it's like I clear it out. I'm sweeping out my house real quick. I'm sweeping out the dirt and the dust real quick. So I get I feel personally where I get to and this didn't happen for me from the very beginning. This is much practice. This is like, I've been meditating like almost 2 years, consistently. And this is through practice that I get to this level. And I'm sure there's much further levels beyond where I can achieve. But I get to a point where it's like, there is no emotion. There's no happy, there's no sad, there's no angry, there's nothing. There's nothing. There's no emotion. It's clear, it's a blank slate. There's nothing there. So now I personally can control what goes there. And I said for a long time, I'm trying not to think. And then there's times when I'm concentrating. And I'm concentrating on what I want to put in this empty space. Do I want happy? Let's put happy there. And I put it there. And I control it. It's mine to control. I take the control. And I put happy there. No matter what, I say to myself, I'm gonna have a good day. Even if I get angry, I'll let the angry come, but I ain't gonna let the angry stay. Yeah, you could stop by, but you know, say hello and you gotta go. You gotta roll, homie. You can't even come in for coffee. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll wait till you from the door and keep it pushing, homie. You know what I'm saying? That's how I look at it. You know what I mean? And I start to take control of my emotion. It's times throughout the day when I start to feel stuff, and through meditation, I practice awareness, like being aware, practice concentration. So in this times now, I can recognize emotions as they creep up from me. And I recognize it. I'll be like, yo, where's this coming from? Why do I feel this way? I could do that in my mind. It's so crazy because I actually had those type of conversations in my mind where I'll feel an emotion, and before the action comes, because before I used to have the emotion, boom, action, automatic. It wasn't there was no in between. It was like, feel the emotion, have the action. Now it's like, feel the emotion and analyze emotion. All right, where's this coming from? What is this? You know, if it feels foreign, feel unpleasant or something, I don't want it. I'm like, yo, hold on, why do I feel? I remember one time I'm working across from this one dude, and I'm getting super annoyed with him, right? And then I start to realize, I'm like, yo, why do you feel like this about this guy? Like, I started looking at what he's doing, I'm like, he's not really doing nothing to bother you, so why are you, like, taking this so personal? Like, I'm literally having this conversation with, dude don't know nothing. He's still working, I'm still working, but I'm having this conversation, like, leave this guy alone. He ain't doing nothing to you, chill. You know what I'm saying? I had that talk with myself in my mind. This is how I battled feeling other energies. Because I don't know that, maybe he was feeling something towards me. You know what I'm saying? I never know. I know that this came out of nowhere, and for real, when I looked at the situation, it didn't seem like it was no good reason for me to be feeling this way, so I dismissed it. I was like, that ain't mine. I don't want it. And I didn't keep it no longer. I let it go. And I'm telling you, this don't happen right away, automatically. Like, you make that decision, and then boom, right away, you're on this level where you could do that. You have to practice. It takes much practice. It takes effort to do these things. But I get to these levels where I'm not perfect at it. Trust and believe. I have my moments. I spaz still a lot. But before, I never took that consideration. Never, not one time ever took that consideration. Now, I'm at least taking it sometimes. And honestly, I feel like most of the time I'm taking that consideration. And I want to get to a level where I'm all the time taking that consideration. But practice makes perfect. I just got to keep doing it over and over. But yeah, this was like a long video. Listen, I feel like I made my point. I'm basically, you know, sometimes you have to take the responsibility yourself to analyze things yourself. You know, you might not know the textbook stuff to things and all that, but you know you. And you know how you feel about stuff. You know how you think, you know all this. When stuff starts to happen that you start thinking in a whole totally different way than you're used to, you start feeling in a whole totally different way that you're used to, start paying attention. Look at your environment. What's happening? Start matching the clues together. Be the detective. This is your life. It's your responsibility to do that. Nobody can do it for you. Nobody's going to feel the pain or pleasure of your life for you. So everything's up to you. You have to take the control. Stop letting the world control your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings. Stop letting the world do this. Stop doing that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what's the problem for us. That's the problem. And then when things don't happen in our life that we don't like, we're like, and we want to start blaming stuff, right? And on the real, yeah, it is the world's fault, right? But who gave the world that responsibility? Who gave the world that much power over your life? The world didn't just take it. You gave it up. So now deal with it or change. You got the opportunity to change, so now you got to put work in, so put the work. Oh, you too lazy, you don't feel like doing it? Then deal with what you got. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, yeah, I'm starting to ramble. Listen, it's a long video. I'm going to cut it off here. I love y'all. Understand, it's your boy, 8-Face, the Muddy Professor. And I'm sending peace and blessings to all of y'all. Alright, I'm out, homie. Peace.